All right, EntreArchitect community, it's 4 p.m. Eastern or thereabouts, and that means it's time for our Context and Clarity live conversation for Thursday, January 5th, 2023. That was very
Wow.
intentional. Had to think about that one for a minute.
No, that just
When you get
sounds
here,
weird.
say hi. Let us know that you're here. Let us know where here is for you. Where are you joining this conversation from? If we've never met before, my name is Jeff. I come here every weekday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern for one reason, so that we can find clarity around the things that matter most to you, the architect. It doesn't matter if you're the employee of a firm or you own your own firm. Maybe you circle a date on the calendar. You said 2023 is my year. Maybe you have launched your own thing here in this brand new year, or maybe it's coming soon. Or maybe you haven't had your own firm for a year or 10 years or 30 years. Whatever the case is, we come here every weekday afternoon to find clarity around the things that matter most to your success, the success of entrepreneur architects just like you. As usual, for these Context and Clarity live conversations, I am joined today by my co-host, Katharine MacPhail. Hi, Katharine. Happy New
Hello,
Year. How
Jeff.
are you?
I am great. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
I'm doing pretty well. 2023. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it's my year. I'll let you know at the end of the year if
Okay.
I was correct.
All right. We'll do the debrief, I guess, at the end.
Right. It's our
That's good.
year, John Jones says, and that's true. It's our year
It is. It
together.
is. It is our year. Absolutely. I'm looking over there at the comments and I see that Chris Novelli, there's seems to be some competition. That's good. Healthy competition to see who gets into the room first. I see Chris Novelli first on the screen from Massachusetts, which means that he is the winner of today's John Kinney Memorial Crocheted Bathtub Award. Congrats, Chris. I didn't realize, I've never looked this closely at these comments, but there's a timestamp. John Jones, Chris beat you out by 4 seconds.
That's a
That
long
was the
time.
margin of victory right there. So
I
sorry
mean,
about
4
that,
seconds
John.
is pretty
Yep.
definitive.
I don't
Yeah.
know if that's the difference between Massachusetts and Connecticut, the distance from there to Indianapolis or what, but congrats to
I don't think
Chris.
so.
Yoko, we see you out there in Alexandria, and Jessica in Los Angeles. Jefferson, also in Los Angeles. Mark R. LePage says 2023 is his year over there in Waxhaw, North Carolina. Daryl, good afternoon to you from Western New York. Glad you're here. And I see Kurt. He is heading up our big following from Twitch over there. Good afternoon. I want to say good morning again for some reason, but good afternoon from Flint, Michigan, and Twitch. Kurt, glad to have all of you with us here today. And again, if you're on Facebook and commenting away, but your comments are not showing up on the screen like Chris's or John's or others, it's because you're in a private Facebook group. You need to give Facebook permission to let your name, your likeness, your comments out. The way that you do that is to go to the URL, open up a separate browser window so you don't lose this. Type in chat.restream.io/FB, like Facebook. And a couple of clicks later, you'll give Facebook permission to talk to Restream. All of your problems will be solved at that point. Chat.restream.io/FB, as in Facebook, and then your comment should show up on the screen just like Mark's does. It says timestamps. You just invited appeals. Yeah, there can be appeals. However, what shows up on our screen is the official. So you can appeal whatever you
Yep.
want, but we're going to reject it. That's all I'm saying there. I'm really excited to kick off this new year of conversations for Context and Clarity Live. And we've got some fantastic synergy here. Most of you, if you're a regular around here, you know that every month we do the Context and Clarity Book Club. The book club book for December, which we would typically discuss on the last Friday of the month. However, Friday fell between the holidays, so we pushed it back to this Friday, meaning tomorrow. And our book club book for last month was The Proximity Principle. One of the really exciting things about this first week of the year is that we actually get to talk with the author of The Proximity Principle today. So I'm really looking forward to this. We've emailed back and forth a little bit, and I love the book. There's some connections, some synergies, some similarities here. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. So unless I missed anything, did I miss anything? A little bit rusty
Well, it's
already.
been a while, but I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna go with no. So let me
No,
introduce
that's what I meant to
our
say.
let me introduce our guest. Our guest today is America's career coach. He's an author,
Mm.
a career expert, a host, and a purpose driven leader. He hosts the national radio program, The Ken Coleman Show. I just gave away who our guest is. It's on the
Mm.
Ramsey Solutions Network, and he's written two #1 bestsellers. One is From Paycheck to Purpose, and the other is our Context and Clarity Book Club book for December, The Proximity Principle. Ken Coleman, welcome to Context and Clarity Live.
Jeff, Katharine, good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here, and I forgot to tell everybody that we restocked the green room, and today we had long sleeves, king size sleeves of Reese cups back there. How were those?
Fantastic. I got to make sure they're not the residue is not hanging out on my face. I'm
No, you look
properly
good.
sugared up and ready to go.
Awesome, love it. And for a guy that's typically on the radio, I don't know that you normally have to worry about that when you're not on. Well, you are on camera quite a bit, though, aren't
Yeah, we actually
Yeah.
in HD. Unfortunately, every day we're
you?
we're on YouTube as well, and I do a lot of live media. So I was in New York a couple weeks ago, right before Christmas on Fox, and they throw that dreaded stage makeup on me, and
uh,
so
Mm.
so every once in a while I have to clean up for the cameras.
well, but the stage makeup can cover up the chocolate, I guess.
It
That's
can,
what
it can.
Jeff
It's actually
uses.
thicker. Yeah,
That's
Is it
yeah,
for that? It just
they
covers over
call
the
it
chocolate.
pancake for a reason,
Well,
I guess.
it's dreadful.
I did read at the end of your book where you said not to eat at during an interview. So
It's true.
I know that you
Yeah.
knew
Well,
better than to be still
I
eating
said
them
you
when you
don't.
came on.
Yeah, you don't eat before speaking or broadcasting, and the reason you don't want to do that, and this would kind of fall in for a public presentation, maybe for your audience, is you don't want to get the involuntary burp that you have to
Oh,
swallow while the
no, that would be
camera is
awkward.
on you or the mic. It's just an awkward moment for all of us. Kind of that Kermit the Frog awkward smile or swallow when Miss Piggy would really get him.
Welcome to Pro Tips with Ken Coleman.
Yeah, hey, it's
Good
been
tip.
great being with you
Good tip.
guys. Good night, everybody.
That was the mic drop moment right there. Um, Ken, first of all, and I've said this before, I said this in the intro, I've really enjoyed the proximity principle. As we were emailing in the very beginning, and I know Sam is in that loop. The fact that you started your career, or your second career, maybe we'll talk about that more. Calling high school football games, which is exactly where my son, who is studying sports broadcasting right now, is exactly where he started. That was the moment that I knew I had to reach out to you and go, we need to have a
Mm.
conversation because
So
that's really
Yeah.
cool.
you're actually just trying to get Ken close to you because I know you want to be a sportscaster now, Jeff.
Well,
And in fact, we need to
I just do
leave right
public
at
address.
5 so we can get to his next
I don't do
game
the play by play. Yeah.
Yeah, those were the
someday.
golden years. That's by the way, doing that stuff, starting out doing that is when you learn really quickly how much you want to get somewhere. When you're
Yeah.
doing the baseline, humble stuff nobody's listening to, and I was doing it on the internet. So the only people listening were the kid next to me and my wife at home because she's a good woman. So that's when you figure out real quick, do I really want to go through these desert years and wander for a bit? But they were fun. It was a fun time, and I treated it like it was the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got to. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mentioned the fact that that was sort of the second career. Um, so let's go all the way back to the beginning. What did you want to be when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I'll answer that from the 16-year-old point of view because I think
Okay.
everything prior to that was largely just whimsical.
Mhm.
And I prior to 16, I just wanted to be a big deal. I'm one of these people that was born a performer. You just have it or you don't. It may go dormant for a while and undiscovered for a while, but I believe there's a tuning fork in the chest of people who are performers.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like once that tuning fork gets hit, it's like you go, oh, uh, this pressure that comes with this attention is exciting. And I felt it at the age of 5. I was a newspaper boy in the high school play at my small Christian private school. Because I volunteered, I raised my hand faster than anybody else when my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Murray, walked in and says, "Does anybody want to try out for the newspaper boy in the play?" And I just heard play, people looking at me, and I'm 5. And the night I walked out on that stage and delivered my first line, it was really cute and everybody laughed. It was um, a visceral
Yeah.
reaction in my soul. And I couldn't have said that when I was 5, but I remember it like it happened
Right.
10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Fast forward to the age of 16 to answer your question. I got some real clarity as a 16-year-old. I wanted to serve my country in political office, public servant. And that was either governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia or United States senator. That was the goal.
Okay. So
How'd that go? You changed your.
Well, I pursued that path. I knew that I had to get into politics, and so I chose, working as a political staffer. So I went to college. The short version is the summer of my so I would have just finished my sophomore year. So I'm a rising junior in college, and I got the opportunity to be a driver for a guy who was running for Congress, and I took it. And I had all this alone time exclusive. I was like his handler, his bag guy, everywhere he was. And as a result, I had a lot of relationship cachet that was developed, and I started giving him advice, and he liked it. And he said, "I want you to take over my field operations for the campaign. We were small. We don't have a lot. I can give you a little bit of a bump, but I want you to take over my grassroots operations." And he's like, "That means speaking on my behalf." And I mean, I'm 19, about to be 20 years of age at that time. And man, it was awesome. It was the fight, baby. I was on the front lines, and it was great. And we lost, but I went back to school and rotted. It's like going from the front lines to a desk position.
yeah.
And so I lasted for I didn't finish. I lasted maybe another year, and had an opportunity to work on a U.S. Senate race and then a gubernatorial race. And then we won the gubernatorial race. And at 23, I was working for the governor of Virginia as a special assistant. And so I was in that for a while. Well, that's not true. I was in it for a year, and I just hated the governing side. Bureaucracy was way too slow for me. I'm built for the storm. I just am. I love the good fight. And the pace is so much different from campaigning versus governing. And so I said, well, all right, I got to get out in the private sector and build a resume so I can run one day. I didn't want to have a political resume. That was the general consensus. I suspect it still is for young people that want to run one day. You just kind of learn, you don't want to have a political resume, all your paychecks coming from politics your whole life. You got to get some credible free market stuff. And so I went into business and built a nice career there. And then along the way realized that it was in politics, and that's what led to a lot of confusion and frustration and direction issues, and really is the source of why I do what I do today.
So obviously you found clarity, right? You've written a book now called the Proximity Principle, which is, it was published several years ago now. Where did that clarity come from? How did you discover, formulate, whatever you want to call it? How did you develop the Proximity Principle?
Well, the proximity principle is an interesting story. I was working for Ramsey Solutions as I am now, and I had just moved from the host of EntreLeadership podcast, which is a very popular leadership podcast, and I was doing a couple other hosting duties for Ramsey Solutions. And Dave said, "Hey, I know you got a voice. I know you got something to say. I know you want to help people." And so I'd stepped into that role. And so it was like, "What's the first book? Well, let's get you a book out there." But prior to that conversation, um, I was driving into work one day, and the first thing on my schedule was an interview on a podcast like this, and so I was looking at what it was, and the host had sent pre-prepared questions, and I don't like pre-prepared questions. I don't give my guests pre-prepared questions. I don't want to look at them. I want to have a conversation with somebody. And but for whatever reason, I looked at what he had said, and this is a young guy, and the last question was, if you could boil down your career success to one thing, what would it be? And I'll be honest with you, I had a bad attitude about it. I thought it was a bad question. I've kind of cut my teeth being an interviewer, and I've had the opportunity to interview some amazing people. And that's how I kind of really got into this world is through interviewing. And so I was like, how am I going to answer that? That's a poor question. You can't boil down my success to one thing. And then I was like, all right, Coleman, give the kid something. And so I'm sitting at a stoplight and I'm just thinking back over my 7-year journey from high school football play-by-play on the internet to having my own syndicated show and co-hosting the Dave Ramsey show and all these crazy things. And I just had the thought pop into my mind. I was really good at getting around the right people and in the right places. Now, I wasn't initially, but I figured it out because it's a process. But my journey is a result of I figured out how to get around the right people in broadcasting and in the right places in broadcasting. And it was the right people in the right places that just kind of kept building, if you will, my own ladder and one rung at a time. And I was able to climb it. So then I was sitting there, I was like, well, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good answer for me to be able to summarize it. And so I'm driving along, and now this is already too long of a story, but between the 5 miles from that stoplight to pull in the office, I worked for John Maxwell for years. And John Maxwell's a world-class communicator, and he's always got principles. And so I'm kind of steeped in that way, and I'm a pastor's kid. So I think in terms of alliteration and all kinds of stuff like that. And so I'm driving along, and I was like, what is that? How would I summarize that statement? And I went, oh, it's about proximity. And then alliteration took over, the proximity principle. So I developed it in the car. I then tested it out on the radio show later that day when as fate would have it, a caller came in and was asking, hey, how do I move from this industry to that industry? I said, you know what? I'm going to give you a thing that I've never mentioned before. I think it's called the proximity principle. And here's what it says. In order to do what you want to do, you got to be around people that are doing it in places where it's happening. And I thought, well, I think that's pretty good. I don't know if it's any good, but I think it's pretty good. And I just kept sprinkling it in and testing the content, just like you would test any kind of a product or a service. And people grabbed hold of it. So the time came later on when Dave's going, hey, what would you write about right now? I said, if I'm going to write about one thing right now, it's the proximity principle. And so that's where I got the idea for it. And then I really flushed it out because I went back into my journey and I came up with 5 people that really helped me. As you know, you guys have both listened to the book. And then there were 5 places. And I, based on my own experience, plus coaching people, guiding people, paying attention to the world, that's where I kind of developed the 5 people in the 5 places. And the reason that I put that particular thought together in a book is it is an intimidating task to climb a large mountain. I mean, it's pretty easy to go, I'd like to climb that mountain. But then the process of climbing that mountain is terrifying. It is intimidating because there's so much complexity to it. And so what I wanted to do was give the reader something that they could hold on to, that they could go, you know what, I'm going to simplify a very complex journey. Yeah. And if you can just always, at every level of your journey, whether you're leading a company or you're on your own and working your way up, if you are constantly intentional to be around the right people, to put yourself in the right places, here's what I know to be true, that opportunity shows up at your door. Yeah. But I can tell you conversely, if I meet a person who's frustrated, I can't catch a break, I can't catch an opportunity, I immediately know they're not around the right people and they're not in the right places. Because if I'm in the right place and I'm around the right people, the right time will happen and I'm there when it happens. But if I'm not there, I miss the right time. It's been all around me and I don't even know it's there. And it's a simple concept. And I think there's great power in it.
Yeah. You use that mountain analogy a lot, the Mount Everest, climbing your Mount Everest. And for our audience, for our community here, as you know, if the context that the book is presented in is finding your dream job or making a career change, I think it's like half a step to where our audience typically is, they might be starting their own firm, right? That's, career change in a way, leaving a firm, starting your own thing. They might be saying, hey, I'm really trying to find my ideal client, or get into a new project type. So I wouldn't even call it a leap to get from the proximity principle in terms of dream job to what our audience is experiencing. I think it's completely relatable. So when we think about that being our mountain, making change, I guess is maybe the mountain. What is that change? How did you discover that it started with the people? You were talking about that as sort of the first aha, if you will, when you're in there in the car. How did you get to that aha about it being about the people?
Well, I just went, and let me say this: it has tremendous context. The subtitle, the proximity principle, is in the space that I'm in every day. But the reality is those two examples you gave that represent your audience are simply opportunities.
Right.
Opportunities for a new client,
Yep.
opportunities for whatever. So when I'm looking for an opportunity for growth, the proximity principle always applies. So you're absolutely right. The application is there. To your question, I led with people in the book, but that was because as I look back on my journey, and I started first thinking, the question I asked were, who are the people that I was able to stand on their shoulders? Nobody gets anywhere of substance without somebody's help. If the old adage is, the old metaphor, if you're walking along and you see a turtle on the top of a fence post, you know one thing: he didn't get there by himself, right? And so that's the idea here. And so it could be places. It could be a place first. In other words, they work together, Jeff. If I'm looking for a new customer, I'm looking to maybe expand my offerings. I'm looking at both things equally. I'm going, who are the people that I need to be around? What are the places that I need to be in, or our company needs to be in, right? So if it's a trade show or whatever. And so when I'm in the right places, I meet the right people.
Yep.
When I'm around the right people, they point out and put me in the right places. So they really build on each other. It's not a this first or whatever. However, I do think it is easier for us when we're trying to figure out proximity. In other words, who do I need to be close to? People kind of surface, I think, top of mind a little bit quicker. But I would not overlook places, and that's what I found. I mean, I'd show up sometime because somebody said, you need to get over there. And I didn't really know anybody over there. And I got in this place and met somebody. Hey, this is great. And I write about it. About the broadcasting school that I took.
Right.
That was the right place. I didn't know anybody, but I had to sign up, and I had to make the sacrifice of time and money. And as a result of taking that broadcasting school, it allowed me to meet the right people, figure out some more of the right places. So that's the idea. And it absolutely has context. When we talk about a business, I'll just kind of give you one and hand you the ball back. If I'm running a business, one of the places that's always top of mind for me that is absolutely a right place is where my customers are hanging out.
Not networking events?
No.
Yeah, not networking.
No, I hate networking events. But it's like, where are my customers? Like, what are other, so to the extent that you have, so for instance, to give you an example, I can look on the YouTube metrics of the Ken Coleman Show, and I can see the top 5 shows that the majority of my audience is watching outside of my show. So the right places for me I need to be watching those other shows, because I want to see what's the connection between my show and those shows. Why is my audience watching my show and then watching these shows? It's the same kind of thing, to the extent that you know where your customer's hanging out, or what else they're buying, or what their problems are. So maybe the right place is, hey, as the entrepreneurial head of my organization, I need to be intentional to make sure that I'm spending time in the right place, which is audience surveys or live streams with some of my customers, so that I can hear directly from them. That's the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned before that you sort of simplified this or presented it in a clear outline, at least. And it strikes me that while it is simple, it's that old adage of, it may be simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy.
That's right.
As simple as all of it is, you present 5 people, 5 types of people, 5 places, and then 4 action items. Why aren't more people executing on the proximity principle?
That's a really deep question, and it requires very brief pause because I want to make sure that I really answer this to the depth that it deserves. I think it is because our humanness, our human nature defaults to the easy, to the convenient.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't think our natural human response is to take the road less traveled.
Right.
I really believe that's the answer. I mean, I could probably delineate about 8 different ways on that, but I think the proximity principle only works when you do.
Yeah.
Like there is intentionality, and not just intentionality, Jeff, but you also have to kind of put yourself out there in some awkward spaces and face rejection. You have to face fear. You have to face doubt. Rejection, fear, and doubt, man. Woo! Those are scary enemies, man. And I really do believe that's the answer. That's not why everybody does it. I mean, because it's a conscious choice. I think the way that humans are wired is we're wired for progress and convenience. Right? And technologies are the example of that. We all love our convenience. Well, the proximity principle is anything but convenient. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes patience. You got to learn how to hear no. It's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you said that in that way, because I think that, my perspective on on the people that make up our community is, and I think somebody said this in the comments at the beginning in our opening, that this is our year, or at least I saw that in some conversation today. This is our year. And I truly believe that it is, right? I truly believe that entrepreneurial small business owners have some real advantages, flexibility, and the ability to pivot, which comes up in the book as well. A lot of advantages, but we've got to, you mentioned putting in the work. You mentioned even the example of looking at your YouTube analytics, right? Are we putting in the work to figure some of these things out? I think we have these advantages, but in order to really tap into them, we've got to do the work like you're describing here in the proximity principle. And unfortunately, and I always raise my hand, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm guilty of this as well, that a lot of times we're not doing the work. And I don't know if that's lack of focus on the goal or lack of direction. I don't know why it is, other than the, sort of defaulting to the easy and the comfortable. But
I'll tell you what
hopefully
it is.
that's the encouragement for the year, is to do the work.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it is. You can't will yourself to do the work. You can't say, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. every day this year, and I'm going to do this, this, and this. I'm going to do the cold shower, and then I'm going to do the workout. I'm going to do this and this. You can say all that, but you will not do it if you don't care deeply about what's on the other side of that.
Yeah.
So the word here is passion. And passion gets, honestly, it gets beat up. I see people in my space on social media going, don't follow your passion. And I get it. But passion, as you guys know, is a fundamental part of my methodology. Talent's what we do best. Passion is what we love to do. This is a form of work. It's a task, a function, a role. Mission is what motivates us. In other words, results that matter deeply to me. Passion and mission together is what really drives action. So what I mean by passion is the root word of passion is in the Latin is pati, P-A-T-I.
Okay.
And there's another word in German which it escapes me right now. But what's fun about the German word for passion and the Latin word for passion is they both mean basically the same thing, and it means to suffer.
Hmm.
But we kind of think of passion as um, a romantic love, or well, I just really enjoy it. But real passion, the root of that, and the true understanding of it is that I am willing to suffer all manner of things. I'll suffer patience, I'll suffer rejection, I'll suffer failure. And I'll do all of that because of the outcome,
Yeah.
because of the love. I love this and I care about the results that it produces. So the answer to why they don't do it is because they don't want it bad enough.
I
They don't
I
want it
think
bad enough.
I think that might be the lesson of the year, that maybe the question is, as you look at your business, whether you're an architect in Maine, I see Mike Main's in Maine. Hi, Mike, and Janine in Arizona, and Christian in Ithaca, New York. No matter where you are, you know, have you built a business, a firm, whatever you call your entity? Have you built something that you wake up in the morning and say, I am willing to suffer for this?
Oh
And,
boy,
and I
I
guess,
don't.
there can be lots of reasons for that you might, but are you willing to do that? I love the illustration you talked about what it takes to climb a mountain. You do the foothills and the base camp and so on. Are you willing to go through all of that for the current formulation of your business, or does 2023 need to be a time where you say, hey, I need to tweak some things, I need to pivot some things to get it to the point that I am willing to suffer for it?
Oh
Yeah.
boy, how do you do that? I don't know. I don't like hearing stuff like that because then I feel like I don't know, what's the point
Well,
of
because
what of life, And so then if I have this business and I've had it and I'm 56 and what else am I going to do? And I just have to get up and do it because I told somebody I would. So I just guess I have a bad attitude and then I need to get passionate somehow about what I
well, I
want.
think the question that you asked is the question you must answer.
I know that's a problem. I can't get it. Maybe I could
But
ask Chat GPT.
I also think that you've taken the most negative connotation of suffering
Hmm.
and you've applied it to what I said.
Hmm,
I don't mean
typical.
that you
Me.
suffer to like that's the problem. It's I'm giving the philosophical context of passion,
Hmm.
but the way we all use suffering is the way that you took it. And that's not it's not a
Yeah,
bad
No, I don't
negative,
thing.
take it like
very
that. I'm
negative.
just saying I don't have the passion to get out. Like I would do anything for my job.
Mhm.
Like I'm not feeling it. So somehow I need to feel it.
So you need to
Yeah.
because life is short. You spend more time at work than you do anything else. And I just believe that there should be meaning. There should be contribution that you experience, not just a paycheck. So I wrote the last book, From Paycheck to Purpose.
Mm.
Most of the world looks at work as I work to live, meaning to pay the bills, and that's a recipe for frustration, and it's a recipe for misery, and it is a recipe for meaninglessness,
Mm.
and then worst of all, a recipe for regret.
Mhm.
Um, I don't want to get to the end of my life and look back and regret. I want to look back and reminisce, you know,
Yeah.
and it's there for you. An assessment for you, the Get Clear Career Assessment that I'm going to have
Mm.
Sam send to you. I want you to
Okay.
take it because
Hmm.
I'm giving it to you for free, and I want you to get your results and look at it and really hold it up now as a lens against what you're doing, and then let it be a job description for you. So there you go.
Well, thank you, Ken.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's part of your journey too, right? Didn't you get to the point where you woke up and you were frustrated and you weren't where I mean, you,
Sure.
you used that the tuning fork analogy, which I love. Um, isn't that what kicked you off into, I mean, a few steps down the road into the high school football games, but to make that career change?
Yeah, I mean, so when I wake up, in my early 30s, after having built a nice business resume for 7 years. And I go, all right, feel like it's time to figure out where I'm going to run for office. And then when confronted with that dream, that vision, didn't feel so fun, didn't feel so hot. Oh, what's that all about? And I sat on it for a while, chewed on it. Well, maybe the time's not right and blah, blah, blah. And I made excuses. Why wasn't moving forward one way or the other. And that's what we humans do. When we don't feel like we're ready or we don't feel confident and clear, then we make excuses for inaction. And those excuses sound really smart. Well, I don't want to take a chance. I'm not ready for this. And so we convince ourselves that inaction is wise. And so we are not acting out of a place of wisdom. It's total garbage. It's total excuse. And so it was in that moment in my early 30s when I realized it wasn't politics. But when I really came to grips with that, Jeff, it was unsettling to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
I was confused. I was frustrated. I was scared. Lots of things. And so it was in that season where I kind of languished, right? I wasn't flourishing. I wasn't floundering. I was languishing. It's kind of in the middle. And I stayed in that state for a while. And then I finally just said, all right, I'm sick of being the only guy at my own pity party. And I came up with something in my journal one day that I've shared many times. I'll share it now, but it was a note written to myself. And it was this: nobody's sitting around thinking about how they can help Ken Coleman. And it was a stark reminder, everybody's got their own life. They got their own problems, man. They're busy. And I'm not top of mind for anybody.
Yeah.
And so it's time, man. It's time to get back out of the cave and figure this out. And so that's when I got on the journey of like real self-discovery, pulling from my past, looking towards the future, looking at, and I didn't have the methodology that I teach now. I didn't have the methodology of talent plus passion plus mission equals purpose. I didn't have that. I developed that over time, looking back on my journey while I was just trying to figure it out.
So I know we're headed towards the top of the hour here. Maybe the way to round this out is to just ask for anybody in our audience, in our community, that says, "Hey, I don't necessarily have passion for what I'm doing. It's become more of a paycheck type role, even though the majority of people in this conversation are probably the business owner. But maybe the question to ask is, how do we find that tuning fork, or how do we use that tuning fork? And then once we've found that thing, how do we really apply these principles that we're talking about?
Yeah. And I'd throw it out there too. If you've got a question about the proximity principle, how do I leverage the power of people and places in my life? Specific to your question, I take questions all the time from business owners. So fire away on any side of that. But I will tell you that while many of your audience, and if we're waiting on questions, I'll just say this: I believe most of your audience is probably very, very purposeful. That's why they're checking in with you on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But there will come a time where they will be confronted with fear and doubt. It's just part of the entrepreneurial journey. It's a part of the journey of anybody that's trying to move forward on purpose. And I try to encourage people all the time, if you're in a place of fear and doubt, number one, I got great news for you. That means you're trying or you're actively moving forward, because fear and doubt never show up to the people who sit on the bleachers of life. They're just fat and happy, elbow deep in a bag of popcorn. They're spectators. There's nothing for them to fear or doubt. They're just watching.
Yeah.
But people that are experiencing fear and doubt are at least hoping, trying, doing. And I would say that that's a good sign. And I would say that there's going to come a time where fear and doubt will get you in the moment. And the way you overcome fear and doubt, because you will never remove them, is you've got to retreat back to clarity. Retreat back to purpose. What is my why? Right? And how does the why inform our company's what, our where, our who, our when, all of that. And so that is a message I love to give leaders, because leaders more than most will experience fear and doubt on a regular basis, and sometimes get absolutely knocked on your can. And so the way you get back up is you draw on clarity, and clarity always gives us confidence, and confidence gives us courage. But you as a leader, you as an individual can never act courageously. You can never act confidently absent of clarity. It's clarity, clarity, clarity. Clarity breeds confidence. Confidence breeds courage.
Yeah. Yeah. When you said that, I just imagined for a second you were channeling Donald Miller, who I'm fairly certain you know Donald Miller. I mean,
Oh,
you're still,
Donald and I have been friends for over a decade.
that's what I kind of figured. I think you're both in Franklin, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when he talks about clarity from the marketing messaging side is really his approach. Um, but yeah, that was sort of a flash there.
We got a question from Caitlin Parker, I see. All
There you
right,
go.
can I answer that one?
Absolutely.
You're looking at a guy who has professional ADHD and is used to all the screens and stuff. So, Caitlin, I love the question. All right, first, I think you joined us probably a little bit late. This is what the proximity principle says, and then I'm going to answer your question. The proximity principle says, in order to do what you want to do. So now, Caitlin, you get to fill in that blank, right? So is it get some more training, or get this certification, or get a better job, or gain a customer, or develop a great partnership? I don't care what it is. You fill in the blank. In order to do or get what you want, you've got to be around the right people, right? And that is the people that are doing what you want to do, doing that thing, or able to help you do what you want. And then get in the places where that type of thing, that thing that you want, is happening, and people are doing it in that place. That's the idea. We're simplifying whatever that goal is, that searing vision, desire that you have. The answer holistically and kind of from 30,000 feet is, I know this, whatever I want, it's going to happen because I'm around the right people and in the right places. And so what you now do is based on whatever you filled in the blank, Caitlin, with, that's when you go, who are some of those right people? What are those right places? And now it's about the diligence and the discipline to show up, show up, show up, show up, show up.
A lot of the action items, the 4 action items, or what do I need to start doing, revolve around that connecting with people, and we might simplify it or oversimplify it by calling it networking, and you use the spider web analogy, which is a great visual as well. So what does it really mean when we're saying, okay, this is what I want to accomplish, right? This is the big goal. I've broken it down into some baby steps. I found I think I've started to find some people that can help me with this, but then how do I start taking that action that you're talking about in the proximity principle?
Well, I think you have to, again, it gets back to the answer I gave a little bit earlier, which is, what's your want to? If I know my why and I really
Mhm.
allow myself to soak in that and say, what's that desired future? What is that? Why do I want that? Like, where does that
Yeah,
put
yeah,
me? Like, you really have to have that top of mind. I think it gets down to focus. I
mhm.
don't think we can act on something that we aren't maniacally focused on.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah, especially consistently, I think.
Well,
I mean,
there's this thing in our brain called the reticular activating system. It's pretty wild. Have you ever heard of this?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we have this thing in our brain that neuroscientists call the reticular activating system, and it essentially acts as a camera.
Hmm.
And so it is a brain function. And so what it is that whatever we focus on, it goes, oh, we need to go find some evidence of that. And give you a real example. I want everybody in the audience right now to think about the last time you bought a car, whether it was a new car or used car. You saw that car everywhere for about a week, right? You said something about it. Your wife did, your kids. It's like, oh, that car's there. It's like, did the car fairy drop that into your conscience out of nowhere? How come I see that car now everywhere for a week after buying a similar car that I didn't see? And that's the answer. So what we focus on, the brain goes, so there was intense focus in purchasing a vehicle.
Right.
Okay. And so now the brain goes, oh, we're very focused on this. And it literally does that. And it looks for, so giving you another personal example. If you walk around feeling like the world's against you and you just can't catch a break, I promise you, your brain is going to find all kinds of evidence. Well, that girl at Kroger just was really rude to me when she checked me out. Oh, no, she wasn't. She wasn't even thinking about you. She's thinking about her algebra homework and that she's only making $7.25 an hour because her mom and dad told her, whatever I'm saying. So, there's some unbelievable psychological studies on this as well, which I could go into and I won't. But the idea is that we won't. So the answer to how to take action is maniacal focus, discipline focus. If I'm thinking about it, I'm going to see evidence of it. So if I'm positively thinking about, opportunities in my future, I don't buy into this. I'm going to step on some toes here, but I don't care. I don't buy into the secret and the whole universe comes to you because I don't buy that. I think that's emotional cotton candy. I buy into what neuroscience says. And I think that's what the people who espouse the secret and the whole the universe comes to me. I think they're saying the same thing. They just come at it a different way. So I'm not completely criticizing it. I'm just going, if I'm focusing on something, I begin to see opportunities for it, or I see it. And so if I'm focused on opportunity, guess what I see? Opportunity.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
That's totally
true. I appreciate the book. I appreciate this conversation. One of the things that I say just about every day here in our community is that the DNA of our community has to be about having a growth mindset, and it has to be about taking action. That's the only way that we can move forward. And part of our mission is to gather together as this community and change the world. From the level of our own businesses to the level of the profession. And then if we can do that, then we can literally change the world, the built environment around us. And I think that starting out this year, talking with you and talking about the proximity principle. And by the way, if you missed this at the beginning, everybody, we're discussing the proximity principle tomorrow on the book club discussion. So join us for that. Had a great preview of it here with Ken. But I really do think that everything that you're talking about now is the key to what we're trying to accomplish now in this community. So I thank you very much for this first for writing the book and for your show and everything that you do, but especially for this conversation, Ken.
Yeah, well, so grateful for both of you, Jeff and Katharine. Thank you for having me. I know that you've got a valued audience, and I don't take it lightly, and I'm grateful for the time.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I understand from Sam that you're going to be in Indianapolis in just a couple of weeks, I think, or maybe she said a few weeks.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So
are you guys in Indianapolis?
I am. So
just Jeff.
Yep. Okay. Maybe I will. I'll have to attend your event. See if I can at least shake your hand.
Yeah, it'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, everybody, a little secret. I have to cut this off a little bit abruptly because I've got to go call a basketball game. So thank you all for
Blocker
this.
charge. Blocker charge.
It's a travel. It's a travel every time.
All right.
Ken, thank you for this.
Thanks,
Katharine,
Jeff.
thank you. And to all of you, again, thank you. Happy New Year. This is our first Context and Clarity Live of the new year. And I'm going to keep saying this the same way I did in 2022 and 2021. Please be well, stay safe. Keep those around you safe and well. Take care of yourself. Find a little bit of time to breathe. Relax, find a way to rejuvenate. We do this every day, so you've got to pace yourself. Thanks so much for going along this journey with us, and we will see you again tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all.